Hello and welcome to Frank's School. I'm giving a gloss explanation of Burke's work, episode 9, Making Waves. And we went halfway through. I asked you to stop at about minute 25, and now today I'm going to ask you to watch the rest of this. He was in Cleveland, or he's in Cleveland where you pick it up, and from there he's going to go to Ireland, he's going to go to Vienna. He's going to go to England, at least talking about England. He's going to be aboard a Concorde jet going 1,400 miles an hour, and then he's going to be back in Geneva where he started. He really likes to do that. That Concorde jet, you know, it's interesting now, since that was 1985. The Concorde jets have been discontinued. It could be, you know, my students, students in school, you might have to explain that those were commercial jets that flew at supersonic speeds. Okay. He's going to talk about Ernst Mach. I think that's the right name. Cathode ray tubes. A guy named Thomson, an Englishman. The discovery or the naming of photons. And he'll use that as a making a connection to movie soundtracks. I'm skimming across this in a way because, as I suggested in the last video, I begin to get out of my element. Back when I was in my late teens or early 20s in college, I had to decide which way am I going. Am I going with the humanities or am I going with science? And for a while I had my foot in both oceans, if you will, and so I have read about these, but then ultimately I went with the humanities. And so, although I know these names, I'm not really well versed in this stuff, so I'll let him do the explaining. I do want to say a little something about his style again. That kite flying that you'll see, a man trying to basically fly in a kite, that really isn't necessary. He brings it in. I mean, he explains that it was a hobby of the guy. But it's fun to see. And Burke has said that part of his style, in an interview, he was saying that part of his style is to keep things lively and interesting when it gets really hard. And it is really hard. What he's teaching here is really hard. And what you see is fun to see. You're going to see upside down horses reflected in a pool. And at first I didn't, think that much about it. I saw what he'd done with the camera. But then he's talking about upside down. He's a master in this medium of documentaries, I think. I'm curious to see, when I begin to look at his connections, what I think of that. It may be a discovery for me, because he's good. And another thing, too, there's a vast amount of money spent on this. When you see those upside-down horses, or those horses in Vienna, well, Vienna's famous for its waltzes, Viennese waltzes, and the theme, dun, 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 I think it goes like that, for this whole episode, is done as a waltz. It's in triple time, if you listen. I mean, that theme is brought in. The soundtrack for this is also masterfully done, and every so often that theme is brought in. Well, there it's brought in gently as a waltz. He'll talk about Einstein's theory of relativity. Einstein said that light is particles and waves. It's both. How can that be? Well, it's not my business to explain that or even understand it, really. And then he talks about the uncertainty principle. And really he approaches the idea, at least that what I'm getting from this, is that science ends up hitting its limitation in a way. There comes a point where knowledge is limited. Science maybe can only go so far. Maybe I'm misunderstanding him there. But what I'm taking from it, and in the last episode, he gets you ready for his last episode, so many of us basically live in a Newtonian world, the world of Newton, which science has demonstrated isn't really right, but that's the world we live in. Let me jump up here. He has said different times that technology is not science. Uh, and people get the two mixed up. Well, yeah, I agree. And what I did here is when I was teaching school in the last 5 or 6 years that I taught public school, I had a club. I had many, many clubs. But one of my clubs was called the Low Tech Club. It was my reaction against, they use the word technology, always meaning computers, the latest technology. And I was trying to get across that, well, there's also low tech. I mean, the technology was the cavemen starting a fire with a stick. That was technology. And so I had a low tech club, and it was a very popular club. Anyway, that may seem to be a complete digression, but here is to go back. He's saying we like the technology, we use the technology, we mostly don't understand the science. And then finally, which I think he suggested is maybe okay, and then he comes to the question, well, what is knowledge anyway? What is knowledge? And he leaves you saying in the next episode, and the final episode, the 10th one, he'll deal with that question, what is knowledge? Well, as you can see by the fast way I went here, I struggle with some of this, but still, it's wonderful to look at, and I hope you enjoy it. I'll have a second video today as I go on with my Decentralist Manifesto. See you next time.